Welcome back to the next session in 5th semester BSc Zoology core course paper, Ethology, Evolution, and Zoography, where we are discussing on evolution. So this is regarding the experimental evidences in favor of the biochemical origin of life, and the first and the most important one among them was the one conducted by Urey and Miller. And most of the this section you may have already learned in your previous classes. So uh, you're already familiar with the Urey and Miller experiment, isn't it? So here it was Harold Urey and his student Stanley Miller in 1953. Uh, they were then at the University of Chicago, and they conducted an experiment. And during the experiment, they succeeded in synthesizing a few amino acids. Um, the amino acids which were the building block of proteins, isn't it? So they could synthesize amino acids from all those molecules which were present in the primitive Earth in the same atmospheric condition, the what you call reducing atmospheric condition, which existed or persisted during that time. So what they did is they had created an experimental setup like this, okay, with a 5-liter flask. So here you can see the flask, and this flask were introduced with the tungsten electrode that could actually provide spark discharge. Okay, it almost like resembled that of the lightning discharge. Okay, and then this had this continuous with the condenser, and in the condenser it has, you can see, water inlet and the water out. So water was like introduced inside, and this water, it reached the passed through the U tube. This is the U tube. Okay, and then it reached the chamber over here. You can see here the 500 cc flask, and here the water was boiled, and during the process water vapor was created, which moved up through this tube and reached the flask over here. Okay, and what Urey and Miller did was, already this particular chamber had what you call ammonia, methane, and hydrogen in excess, almost similar to what it existed in the primitive Earth. Okay, the almost the same, similar proportion, similar condition actually. Okay, and water vapor was introduced into this chamber via the this particular piping system, right? And before this particular experimental setup was this particular setup was established, the whole thing was evacuated. Okay, the whole apparatus was evacuated with the help of a vacuum pump, and then all these were introduced, all the gases were introduced, plus the water vapor. Okay, so this was how the experimental setup was made. Now what they did is they subjected methane, ammonia, hydrogen, and water, okay, to heat and electrical discharge, and they managed to produce this same primitive conditions of the earth inside this particular chamber, inside the laboratory, inside this particular flask. Okay, and the apparatus was first evacuated with the help of the vacuum pump, and then hydrogen, methane, and ammonia was taken in the flask into this chamber, and desired pressure was maintained. Water was introduced into the flask connecting U-tube, and the water in the flask was then boiled to promote the circulation of water vapor, to supply the necessary water vapor for the oxygenation of compounds in the particular chamber. And the products of the discharge were then condensed in the tube. Okay, so whatever products were produced during the reactions going on in the chamber, it slowly moved down, and during its passage through this, it got condensed. Okay, sorry, the products were they condensed in the tube running through the cooling jacket, and it was collected over here in this particular U-shaped tube. The U-tube also prevented circulation in the opposite direction. Okay, by this method, Urey and Miller synthesized about 15 amino acids such as glycine, alanine, glutamine, glutamic acid, aspartic acid, etc. And these amino acids were actually located, were subsequently separated by paper chromatography. So it was actually a very successful result that was obtained, and this proved, or this actually was in favor of the biochemical origin of life. Okay, whatever apparent and Haldane hypothesized, it was actually supported by the results obtained by Urey and Miller through their experiments. Another experiment which came later was by Melvin Calvin. Um, I hope you remember whatever you have learned in your botany classes, isn't it? The photosynthesis, the process was explained. So, the same Melvin Calvin over here, from the same set of raw materials, but using gamma radiation, Melvin Calvin produced purines and pyrimidines. So, in Urey and Miller experiment, they could produce different kinds of amino acids. But in Melvin Calvin's experiment, he could produce purines and pyrimidines, that is a nitrogenous basis, which was required, which is actually a major what you call component for the building up of the nucleic acids, isn't it? So he produced purines and pyrimidines, and in addition to producing a mixture of amino acids and also simple sugars. Okay, that is especially the 6 carbon sugars. Okay, like glucose and all. So 6 carbon sugars, fine, and what you call purines and pyrimidines, along with the amino acids which were obtained by Urey and in Urey and Miller's experiment. So Melvin Calvin was a step a little ahead. And since then, more complex molecules have been made by similar experimental methods. For example, polypeptides have been synthesized from amino acids simply by heating to melting point. Okay. Similarly, nucleic acids have been formed from nucleotides merely by heating under pressure. And these laboratory syntheses show that similar events could have taken place millions of years ago. And that is why the biochemical origin of life, the apparent Haldane hypothesis, is the one which is widely accepted, and also it is scientifically proven. Right. So later, um, like artificial creation of life by man, has been done by various scientists. Whether it could be done, whether this particular such similar experiments can be done to create artificially create life by man. So in 1955, Conrad and Williams, they claimed to have synthesized virus in the laboratory. In 1970, Hargobind Khurana synthesized a gene, and similar such kind of things have been taking place later through the development of various technologies and techniques and experimental advancements. Okay, so this is about the experimental evidences in favor of biochemical origin of life. Fine. So with this, we come to a conclusion of the various theories put forward to explain the course of evolution. Fine. Thank you.